Welcome to episode 6 of March Malcontent. We're going to be starting off with Wii Fit Trainer against Lucario. Two characters you definitely expect to see slugging it out. You have a fitness instructor and a guy who's just really good at fighting, I guess. Lucario specifically has the trait that the more damage he takes, the more damage he deals. This is specifically for Smash Brothers. It's called his aura mechanic. It also does affect things like knockback. So if Lucario's at a high percentage and you get hit by a forward smash to the ledge, you might die as early as 40. Wii Fit Trainer goes low. Wii Fit Trainer is a character who does pretty well off stage. She has a couple of ways of stalling out her recovery. And a projectile to heckle anyone who tries to stop her. Gets the weak hit of Spike, which is not enough to kill Lucario. He does make it back. He does have that aura boost, though. That makes his moves, for example, more safe on shield. They do more damage, more hit stun. It really does just make him a strictly better character. I'm sure there's some sort of obscure combo that can't be done with high aura, but considering the knockback that you get on all your moves, you're usually pretty fine with it. Lucario tried to go over the top there. You can, but it's really hard. The top part of the tower extends a lot farther off screen than you would expect. The idea, of course, being that they don't want people to try to go over it. If you go extremely high up, you can eventually get over it. And then you just slide down the other side. They made sure there isn't a flat surface on top. I think I heard once that there's some sort of exploit to try to get yourself perfectly perched on top of it. Which is interesting. I don't know how that would be useful in a normal match. Especially because I'm pretty sure it goes high enough up that you're actually outside top blast zone anyway. Lucario goes for the edge guard. Wii Fit Trainer actually reverses it on him with neutral air. Wii Fit Trainer needs to land, and Lucario just shielded and let her do that, so... Lucario almost goes for a bouncing combo off the top of the the tower there. He's unable to get it, but he is at such a high rate of... His percentage is so high that his aura is very significant right now. Especially, other things to consider is that Lucario does get rage like other characters do, which is when you're at a high percentage, you take and receive more damage. I mean, not damage, my bad. You take and receive more knockback, which is mostly noticeable when you're hitting your opponent, that they'll go a little bit farther when you're at a higher percentage. It's a mechanic that I think really benefits the game, specifically for casual players who do not know how to kill their opponent. In games before the rage was implemented, like Smash Bros. Brawl, you could get up to 200% a lot of the time. And of course, I guess that doesn't mean as much because they could have easily just changed the percentage knockback multiplier between games. But for the most part, it doesn't seem that they did. It mostly seems that being at a higher percentage is even more punishing now. Also, the last thing to consider about Lucario's aura, I can't believe I almost forgot to mention, is that he does get an aura boost when he's at lower stocks than his opponent. It is slight, so you're not going to be wanting to lose your stocks so that you can be at a disadvantage, so that you can deal more damage to the opponent and regain that advantage. But it is something to know. And in time battles it works the same, but instead of stocks it's with points. Wii Fit Trainer hitting the back hit of forward smash. It is one of the perks of a lot of Wii Fit Trainer's moves, since they're based off of yoga moves, and they're effectively sped up to actually be combat effective. There are a lot of hitboxes you wouldn't expect from other types of that same move. Also, her jab can bury people if you hit all three of them. That's unrelated, but she did it just then. Back here near the ledge is able to kill Lucario. Wii Fit Trainer is able to make it in the tournament.
Don't forget to exhale when exerting yourself.
Next match, we have Greninja against Lucina. Two characters who would normally be blue, but now they're black. I have to pick all these amiibos, alternate colorations, and I still sometimes feel like I got the wrong one on some of them. But it's been long enough, I don't want to change it. Don't want to mess up people's conceptions. I mean, already there's enough that I can... Oh, wow, early kill by Lucina. There's a lot of stuff that I can promise you I'm doing legitimate, but I don't really have too much of a way of proving it. I don't have too many examples because, of course, I'm not trying to. But one thing that comes to mind is that I could, if for some reason I wanted to, keep recording these episodes until I get the outcome I wanted. I don't know why I would do that, but I'm sure it's something that could be done, and it's not something that people would appreciate. Only times I've ever re-recorded anything is re-recorded audio, and I forget to record that, which you'd think I'd learn how to do that more consistently at this point. Remembering to record, not accidentally not recording. I've had to re-record a couple of matches that I shouldn't have recorded the first time. It's always embarrassing. Especially when you get all the way through the commentary and you realize that you really just picked up the wrong amiibo. For example, for starting at this match, I didn't record a wrong match or anything, but I did double check to make sure I picked up Lucina's amiibo instead of Marth's. The characters do actually look like each other on purpose. Marth came out first, and then in Lucina's game, she actually pretends to be like Marth's descendant for a while. And maybe there's a little bit where she like pretends to be Marth. I'm not entirely sure. It's a little bit harder for me to have played all the Fire Emblem games because they mostly came out on the handhelds. And for the longest time, I didn't really have access to those. Not out of spite or anything, just you can only afford so many Nintendo games. Sacrifices have to be made. And that's the match. And that conversation, so I guess I hope you weren't expecting more of it. Alright, up next we have Bowser against Samus. I'd probably put this match a little bit in the favor of Bowser. Specifically, especially on this stage, it's going to be a lot harder for Samus to use her great long-range game. I guess she does have up air ladder combos. But Bowser is an incredibly... Well, he's actually the heaviest character in the game, believe it or not. Makes sense, he's an enormous turtle. Goes for a different ledge than I was expecting for. I thought he was going to immediately die. Anyways, the other reason I put this advantage, well, before he started getting destroyed by Samus. So Bowser's the heaviest character, very hard to kill. And Samus usually relies on playing a whole bunch of keep away and hitting her opponent with a lot of moves. Whereas Bowser being the heaviest heavyweight, sometimes they get called super heavyweights. He's the biggest, baddest heavyweight. Well, I don't know how you define baddest. Anyways, heaviest heavyweight. He doesn't struggle for kill power, and he doesn't grab the ledge there. Surprising. Almost gets trapped under the rock there as well. Man, I started off with one immediate prediction, and I'm starting to get immediately proven wrong. Now, Samus is a pretty heavy character. I want to say that her weight affects Bowser nearly as much. Really just means that Bowser's not going to get a early kill, just a normally expectant kill, I guess. Samus with a fast falling forward air. You don't see that a lot because normally the hits don't connect, but it managed to hit Bowser just enough there. So Samus right there tried to hit Bowser with both of her jabs. The thing you need to watch out for with Samus's jab is that ever since Smash Bros. 64, it has specifically not worked. I mean, it's programmed the way they expected it to, but the second hit doesn't combo... Sorry, the first hit doesn't combo into the second hit. That seems to be an intentional design choice because it occurs in all the games, and sometimes it's even mentioned in the games themselves. I'm pretty sure in Smash Ultimate's help menu it'll say something along the lines of, oh, and the second hit isn't guaranteed to hit the opponent. Samus recovering on the rock. I don't know why she tech rolled there. The rock platform is so narrow that if you do tech roll, you don't really get any distance, which is the advantage of the rolling part. Otherwise, tech roll does give you effectively more inactive frames, which is just more time your opponent can damage you. Sometimes it is, of course, necessary, because you are invincible for the rolling part, and that can mean you don't get hit by an opponent. Although in this match specifically of note, I should mention that Bowser's tech roll is absolutely terrible. He's so huge and it's so small of a distance he gains that it effectively doesn't matter. So for Bowser specifically, I would recommend always going for the neutral tech. Maybe if your opponent just barely can't catch you, it'll be useful. But in general, Bowser's tech roll just is very disappointing. But hey, characters have to have weaknesses. I very much appreciate that. Wow, great confirmed by Bowser there. I very much appreciate that Smash Brothers is a game where everybody has what they need to succeed, and a lot of characters do it so differently. That everyone gets to be strong instead of everything that's cool or unique about a character gets removed in order for the sake of balance. And of course, balancing a game, that's a spike. Samus is going to take that match from Bowser. Not that it was stolen. I think they both did pretty well there. And our next match, we have Link against Piranha Plant. Normally, this is a fight you would expect to very much go in Link's favor, because in his series, he actually has a type of plant enemy called the Deku Baba, which is basically a piranha plant without the teeth or the spots. And Link kills a lot of them. It's actually a specific game mechanic in Ocarina of Time that you can kill them to get Deku Seeds or Deku Sticks. And Piranha Plant's going to get his shield broken if he just keeps sitting there and taking it. I do understand that when your opponent's charging a smash attack and you're already in your shield, you don't want to drop it on the off chance that they time it perfectly and hit you anyway. But also another thing to know is that Link's smash attack actually has not a double hitbox, I guess I'd call it an extension of sorts. He gets the first hit of the forward smash, and if you press A again, you get the second hit, and the second hit is the one that really kills you. The first one actually combos into the second hit. It effectively does mean that his forward smash gets a lot more range, but since you don't always need to commit for it, it's a lot safer, I guess. It's also interesting because you wouldn't, at least meant for me, I normally consider moves with the extra A hitbox a thing that was invented in Smash Bros. Brawl, mostly with Meta Knight and Solid Snake's forward tilts. But that's really not a thing, because Link has had the smash attack for... He's definitely had it in Melee. I can't remember about Smash 64. Didn't play that one as much. I mean, obviously I've still played it and it was fun and great. I didn't know nearly as much as I do now about how the game works, though. Also because Smash Bros. Melee came out something like a year after Smash 64 did. Which is actually pretty surprising. You'd think that there would be a lot more of a gap, but just the industry moved on. Link going very aggressively off stage, not something you'd normally expect Link to do. He has a more stunted recovery than a lot of other characters, so it can be pretty risky. Of course, he does hit hard, so it can be beneficial if you can get your moves to land. That could also be said about almost any character, I suppose. Link parries the Patooie. One of the biggest advantages to the Patooie move, at least when humans use it, is that it's not actually a specific quality about the move, but just the general tendency of whenever you throw it out, if your opponent hits you, then normally get hit by the spike ball afterwards. A great spike from Piranha Plant. Just due to the way that if the ball, if you get hit out from under it, it's going to fall downwards, which is where Piranha Plant was. So any opponent who hits you just threw out a hitbox that covers where you were, and unless they did it with a sword or some other extended hitbox, that usually leaves their hitbox there for a little bit. Especially with how many moves in the game move your character forwards in some sort of way. Best example is a whole bunch of dash attacks. By nature, they move your character forwards. So if you hit Piranha Plant with that, then you get hit by a spike ball, which can be a problem if you're at a very high percent. Or if you don't like getting hit by enormous metal spiked balls in your face. Piranha Plant makes back off on stage. Link actually sacrificed his stage position. I will say, stage positioning in a game like Smash Bros. Isn't as important as a lot of people give it credit for. It still is a factor to know. So I guess this lands as more of an opinion. But having control of a lot of the stage doesn't help as much as... Maybe it's a symptom of whenever people make videos explaining, here's why stage positioning is important. If you don't make it sound like the most important thing in the world, then no one's going to care and or listen. And just due to the way exaggeration works, under-exaggeration never gets recognized, really. Whereas over-exaggeration is a lot more obvious and apparent. Stage positioning is something to know, but it is often one of the first things that goes when you're trying to defeat your opponent. You will gladly give up some of your stage positioning, which I guess could be argued as effectively utilizing the stage control you have, which is one of those more nebulous concepts that it exists, but it's hard to define because we just needed to put a word on it. Piranha Plant is a very heavy character, so he's been able to survive up until 160%. Link's at about 100, but with the rage from Piranha Plant that almost puts him in kill range, a charged up smash will do it. And here we have Corrin against Zelda. Corrin the second, to be clear. This is the Player 2 amiibo, which it's a little bit more difficult to tell because the Player 1 amiibo is male Corrin and Player 2 amiibo is female Corrin. That's kind of because in their game you get to pick which one is your antagonist, basically. You know, character creation stuff. But it did mean when putting the character in the Smash Brothers, they had to answer the question of, alright, who do we pick as the one? And their solution was, you know what, let's do both. So when we only had one of the Corrin amiibos, back when this tournament first started and female Corrin was going for something like $300 online, which these are American dollars. The suggested amiibo retail price is $15. And that's actually what you can get them for on the Nintendo website. Maybe it's $15.99. Either way, $15 or $16. And in the current market, if you're getting a used amiibo in good quality, you're usually getting them for about $30. If there's a lot of them, then you can sometimes actually get them for under that. That usually does involve shipping costs, though. Most retail stores aren't carrying too many amiibo anymore. The market kind of got oversaturated with them during the Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival game. So suddenly the guaranteed product was not as guaranteed, which the retailers didn't like. And I hear it's actually different in Europe, that you can still consistently find a lot of amiibos everywhere. Maybe not as much as during their heyday, but they still exist. Nowadays, if you go to, well, any of my local game stores, you usually find that they have 5 types of amiibo in stock at any given time. Usually they have the most recent 2 or 3, and then a couple randoms you don't expect. Which for a while was a great way of finding some of these amiibos. Since I didn't want to pay the online shipping charge, because that just makes them more expensive. Some stores would just randomly have 7 Falcos, and then I got Falco, stuff like that. Also, the one that has stuck around for quite a while is the Metroid Dread 2 amiibo bundle. That one's just stuck around for a long time. I don't know why. I don't think it's selling as well as I think it initially projected. But also the Nintendo website, especially recently, has put a lot more of the amiibo available again. Which, for a while, getting the right amiibo could actually be an incredibly difficult task if you weren't willing to shill out the extra money for it. There was a while when if you wanted to get the Mii fighters, they come in a triple bundle, which I do understand. I guess it would be harder to... And that fight's already over. Great lightning kick from Zelda. And here I've been talking about the economy. And here we have Banjo and Kazooie against Fox. So Banjo is a character who, when first introduced in the Smash Brothers, I will say that he was probably perfectly balanced. He was just slightly underpowered. Eventually he did get a patch which made him a little bit stronger. And that's kind of the ideal, as weird as it is to say. Obviously, the perfect ideal would be that every character has perfect balance. Whether or not that's even possible to happen, I'd say probably not. And Smash Ultimate definitely has close enough balancing. There isn't much more they can do. There are a couple of characters who, over time, have had their top level just a little bit higher up, maxed out than some other characters. But considering that they stopped patches, I consider that while they had the active patches, with the problems from COVID excluded from that, you can't really predict a worldwide pandemic, that they did everything right. I just gotta say it. Even still, like, every character does feel like they have something they can do. In previous Smash games, if you were 1 or 2 tiers on somebody's tier list below another character, you could really feel it. And it would kind of be a feeling of dread you'd have going into every match. Like, oh, well, I'm at a significant disadvantage in this match. I just hope I can persevere and somehow achieve that victory. Whereas in Smash Ultimate, it definitely feels more like, yeah, no, you played better, you earned it. Even if some characters have some things that feel infuriating in the moment. But back to the main point, that being slightly underpowered is what I would consider the perfect ideal for a new character being added, specifically because a character that is too strong can absolutely destroy a game. I don't usually talk about other games on this, but if you need to see an example of what I'm talking about, Overwatch had a character that, when released, basically is considered part of the demise of the game as a whole. It's taken 5 or plus years, and they're kind of barely recovering from it. You can just watch any video essay on it, and they're gonna bring it up. It's gonna happen. That's just how impactful that character was. Whereas if a character comes out and is grossly underpowered, it's not really a problem for the game. It is, of course, a problem for that character and everyone who likes them. Which, I will say, can, especially be frustrating for a lot of fighting games have joke characters, which is a character added in as a joke. Well, I gotta say, if you actually like the character, certainly the joke isn't looking so funny. It just means that the character that you like the most is effectively just cursed to be terrible by the developers. They'll do stuff like give them intentionally bad stuff, like, oh, isn't it so funny how terrible this character is? But if you actually want the character to do well, then it just kind of feels like getting spit on, metaphorically. And Smash Bros. Actually, as a whole, doesn't have... Well, first of all, Smash Ultimate doesn't have any joke characters, because every character is treated with respect. The only character who ever fell into that category was actually Pichu back in Melee. Pichu was supposed to be a joke, but turns out people like Pichu, so the joke didn't exactly land how they thought. So they've kind of abandoned that, and I think the game's slightly better as a whole. Banjo not using Wonder Wing to recover, it can be risky, but also he probably could have hit Fox with it. And that's the story of how Banjo was a perfectly released character. Did not break the game, and got a little bit of balance adjustments to bring him to where it was just right. Alright, our next fight, we're going to have Charizard against Pikachu. A fight that normally in the Pokemon games, you would think would go to Pikachu because Pikachu's moves would be super effective on Charizard. But Charizard is a fully evolved Pokemon and Pikachu is not. So I guess it depends a little bit on what game you're actually in, but I would definitely give the advantage to Charizard just by having better stats due to how the Pokemon games work. Then immediately switches to Squirtle, so I guess that conversation's done for. And now it's just mocking me at this point. Something that you guys should know is that this is the final match of the first round, I guess you could call it, of the preliminaries. This match, once it finishes, means that every single amiibo that has the possibility of appearing in April Anger, that almost killed Pikachu, will have had their first match. Which is good because, first of all, it means any amiibo that appears, you'll have at least one match of watching them in action to try to help base your predictions on. It does mean that once this match is over, I'm going to be calculating all of the character seeding and whatnot to see who's going to be fighting next. So I actually don't know who it's going to be. I will in about 10 minutes, I suppose. For you guys, you'll just get to watch the next match. Forward smash at the ledge is definitely going to kill Pikachu. So one of these characters will guaranteed be making it in. The one who doesn't will have a second round of matches to go through. And we'll go over that in a little bit more detail when it actually happens, which, for the viewers, that's going to be in 6.5 minutes at the most when the next match is going to start. I can't think of any other business items to cover, though, so I guess that means I get to talk about the match again. Okay, so Ivysaur's up air, gets moved God talk about, has a huge space, and it hurts to get hit by. And one of the advantages for Ivysaur is actually that when he uses it, he kind of gets the Newton's third law of physics. He makes the little bloom explosion, and that pushes him downwards. Means that it's rougher to use over, say, a pit, but if your opponent's trying to land on you, you get to use the up air, and that pushes you to the ground just a little bit faster, meaning you can get your next jump out. Although I guess it does prevent you from trying to use 3 or 4 of them in a really big jump, but I think that's fine. Back air near the edge is not going to kill... Actually, it is going to kill Pikachu. Pikachu didn't get the second recovery angle out in time. Charizard's going to be in the tournament. And for our last match of the video, we're going to have Roy against the Ice Climbers. So, in case you're popping in just now, which is a little bit weird considering we're almost near the end of the video, what you need to know is that we are now on the second round of preliminaries. What this means is that we have about 47 amiibo... Nope, sorry. Actually, 47 is right. 47 amiibo in the tournament who all got their placings guaranteed after the first match. Now, for the next 23 matches? 24? 23 matches, Rob US actually got the bye this round. Whoever loses this match will not be making it into the tournament. It will disqualify them. There are a lot fewer spaces now. This does make winning, I want to say arguably more important, but if you win the first round, then you make it guaranteed anyway. So what you should know is that whoever loses will be eliminated. You're not going to be seeing them until probably the postseason see who needs to get retrained tournament. Because, to be fair, it does mean that everyone who makes it to this point who loses will have lost 2 matches. And we do have to put a cutoff at some point. And since we're not an official tournament, we don't need to make it like best of 8 or anything like that. The amiibos aren't going to get particularly offended. But it does mean that we do have to start eliminating people at some point. And, as if I didn't say enough times, whoever loses this will not be making it into the tournament. The winner, however, you should know, is not guaranteed a spot. They are still going to have to fight to determine who gets to make it. Obviously, if you do win, your chances are significantly better because we have so many slots left. And by eliminating effectively half the remaining roster, there are a lot fewer spots to compete for, but there will still be more slots than fighters left. So something to know. And with that, we can get on to enjoying this battle. Roy did a great job there actually knowing to go for the forward smash, but he mistimed it. So the Ice Climbers, or I guess I should say Ice Climber, was able to tech and use the invincibility frames from that to not get hit by the smash attack. Never see that combo. Ice Climber's back, throw it up air on the platform, no tech. Also, something I just noticed is that this stage has 2 smiley faces on it. On those 2 blue blocks there. I can only assume it's because they used the same block texture and never expected them to show up that often. It's just a little weird that it happened twice. Also, while I'm looking at stage details, there's an Ashley sticker on the side of the green block up there. It's probably going to be really hard for you to tell out, especially depending on what device you're looking at. If you're on mobile, I'm sorry, you're screwed. It's just going to look like a small purple thing. if anyone's watching this on desktop, which I can only imagine is getting less and less popular as time goes by. I'm sure there's someone who has a reason to, but with phones becoming ever more present, you can actually tell that I've kind of been gearing my content toward that expectation as well. Mainly in stuff like how big I make the text on screen. Gotta make it big enough so that mobile people get a chance to read it. Because I can't tell you how infuriating it is to be watching something on a small screen, only to find out that something is just straight up unreadable. Although I guess that usually comes up in stuff like card games or other stuff with small words as part of their content. But a couple other things too, like on the end screen, some of you may not have noticed, usually because if you'd be on mobile, but a lot of people have end screens that have like little video links that can link to their other videos. And I will say that is a cool feature, especially because YouTube gives you a couple options to, say, make it your most popular video or a random video, and it definitely does make it more convenient for people to watch one of your other videos when they're already watching one of your videos. The main reason I don't do it is because, at least on all the mobile devices I've used, that feature just doesn't work. Like, maybe it's because I'm usually not watching in the YouTube app specifically, but if the feature doesn't work, then I'm not going to try to push it on everyone and then be disappointed when it doesn't. And Ice Climbers you may see in the future, well, especially if you watch all the other videos, but Roy, you will not. This is going to be the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed. Make sure to check out the other videos. Unless you don't want to, I guess, then, you know, you don't have to. Until then, though, bye.